There you are, mate. Hey, guys. Hey, lads. How you doing?
I think it's been you.
Yeah.
First of all, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to Professor Paul Wellings, CBE, our Vice Chancellor, and also Ms. Melba Crouch, CSN Chief Administrative Officer. And without further ado, I'll introduce you all to Mr. Adam Gilchrist, AM. So when UAW Ambassador Adam Gilchrist, AM, retired from international cricket early in 2008, he was widely regarded as the finest wicketkeeper batsman to have ever played the game. An aggressive left-handed batsman and record-breaking wicketkeeper, Gilchrist redefined the role for the Australian national team. He holds the world record for the most dismissals by a wicketkeeper in one-day international cricket with 472, and the most by an Australian in Test cricket, 416. His strike rate is amongst the highest in the history of both forms of the game, one-day internationals and Test cricket, and he currently holds the world record for the second fastest century in Test match cricket. He's also the only player to have hit 100 sixes in Tests. Gilchrist's 17 Test and 16 ODI centuries are the most by a wicketkeeper, and he holds the unique record of scoring at least 50 runs in successive World Cup finals in 99, 03 and 2007, and he's only one of 3 players to have won 3 titles. He scored a spectacular century in our 2007 World Cup final and was a spearhead of Australia's victory. Throughout his career, Gilchrist was renowned for walking when he considered himself to be out, sometimes contrary to the decisions of the umpire. He made his first-class debut in '92, his first one-day international appearance in '96 in India at a Titan Cup, and his Test debut was in 1999. During his career, he played for Australia in 96 Test matches and over 270 one-day internationals. He was Australia's vice-captain in both forms of the game and often captained the team when the regular captains Steve Waugh and Ricky Ponting were not available. He announced his retirement from international cricket on Australia Day 2008 during the final Test match of the summer against India in Adelaide, one day after he broke the world record for the most dismissals by a wicketkeeper. However, he continued to play cricket in the IPL, the Indian Premier League 2020 comp, as a top-tier player between 2008 and 2013, most recently with the Kings 11 Punjab as captain, having formerly led the Deccan Chargers to victory in 2009 IPL final. He was inducted into the Australian Sport Hall of Fame in October 2012. Gilchrist has been a brand ambassador for the University of Wollongong since 2008, assisting the university in developing, in particular, its international ties, and to help achieve UAW's goal of ranking in the top 1% of universities around the world. I'd now like to thank Adam personally for making his time to speak to your students today and to share some of his experiences. I must actually admit that I have met Adam once before. It was following the UAW Stumping Serious Diseases, I think 2 years ago, at the Hotel Illawarra, after a few beers, a little bit less formal than this occasion today. Nonetheless, I'm glad I did, because it means that I can meet you again today and feel slightly less nervous about the occasion. Anyway, without any further ado, I'd like to invite Adam to come onto the stage and say a few words.
Look, Charlie, thank you very much, mate, for that very, very kind introduction, and to ladies and gentlemen for the very warm welcome walking in there. It's that was amazing reception, amazing to, and I've the Vice Chancellor and Carnio down the front here, and Melva's probably heard me relay this story before. It's nice to still be recognised 7 or 8 years into retirement. Nice to walk in somewhere and still know who you are, because it's not always the way. Not that long ago, I was had been at a sponsors function all day. I'd sort of shaking hands and having photographs and meeting people and signing autographs. It was a great day, but by the end of it, I was pretty exhausted, and I just wanted a bit of me time. Didn't really want to be talking to anyone else. Just wanted to chill out. And I was at the airport, and I sensed a set of eyes. A guy was looking at me, and I'm thinking, "No, mate, not now, mate." No. I walked away, and he walked around that way, and I went, "No." I went that way, and everywhere I went, he just kept going. Then finally, he conjured up the courage and came over and tapped me on the shoulder. So I put my game face on, and I turned around, big smile, said, "G'day, mate, how you going?" He said, "Are you Glenn McGrath?" which I laughed too. I laughed at the idiot, not that idiot, but this idiot that just thought everyone knows who I am. And he looked at me, and I thought, oh, he'll realise he got a couple of teammates mixed up. And he looked at me, and I said, "No, I'm not." And he just went, "Oh, bugger," and walked off. And I'm going, "Mate, I'm Gilly though, like, just surely you can..." So I appreciate any reception like that, particularly, as I say, 8 years into my post-cricketing life. But no, it's fantastic. Thank you very much for coming along. Thank you to the uni for giving me the opportunity to say good day. I seem to talk a lot about the university and our students and our researchers, our teachers, everything, the wonderful facilities, but all my talking about the uni tends to be overseas to everyone else. So it's great to be on the campus talking to the most important part of our university, and that's our students. Just a very quick recap, I guess. Charlie touched on what my role as brand ambassador is for the uni and how I ended up here. I guess just as I finished in 2008 playing, and at a time when the university took a bit of a strategic view internationally, and none the least to India and its surrounding regions, and also, well, we've had a presence in Dubai for over 20 years with our UOWD campus. I guess the uni thought, if we're going to go into somewhere like India and try and work on business development, we're going to look at collaborative research, we're going to talk to students, how are we going to attract some attention? Oh, that's what we'll do, we'll go and get a cricketer and we'll drag him along. Because it's not bad currency to deal in India, and I can clearly see that there's a strong representation here from the region, around India and Pakistan and Sri Lanka, no doubt, and Bangladesh. So when the uni approached me, it was a pretty easy decision to say yes. I did actually have linkage with the university. My brother is a graduate of UOW, and like all my older brother, and like all keen and eager younger brothers, I was going to follow in his footpath. I mean, he used to tell me about campus life down here and the uni bar, and everything sounded really attractive. It was great, nice. He did a bit of study as well, and he managed to graduate, and I was going to follow in the footsteps of my older brother. So I finished my HSC. I was up in northern New South Wales, enrolled to come down to the university. And then it was at that time I received a cricket scholarship to go to the Cricket Academy and pursue cricket, really. So I was sort of at that fork in the road. Do I go to uni, or do I defer that and try cricket? And basically the cricket journey 20 years later led me back to the university. So it's all ended really, really well. But so I had an affiliation, it felt like, with the university, but just sitting down and talking with the people involved, Professor Gerard Sutton, who was Vice-Chancellor at that time, learning about what idea and vision that the university had. It was a very easy one for me to be a part of, and to promote not just the university but the Illawarra region, really. When we are overseas, it's something, and New South Wales and Australia. So to be able to do that as a brand ambassador is something I'm thrilled to be able to do. I guess in having this chance to talk with you guys today, and I won't go on non-stop, I'm very keen to open this up for a bit of Q&A and hear questions so that I can talk about things you want to hear about, not what I'm up here and just going to force feed you to listen to. But I guess I thought I'd try and touch on a couple of things that I learnt from my cricketing journey, a couple of things that might be transferable over into general life, into study, into pursuing or chasing whatever the dreams are that you have. I was very fortunate to play in an amazingly successful cricket team and that era of Test cricket and one-day cricket for Australia. And one of the most often asked questions of me is, why were you guys so good? But how did you sustain it? And it's a pretty good question, because we all want to be successful at something, but then the challenges of doing that continually or improving and going to another level. And when I think about that era that I played in, I think something's got to be acknowledged straight away. We had a pretty talented bunch of cricketers. We had the best leg spin bowler ever. We had probably one of the best fast bowlers ever in the form of Glenn McGrath. We had an amazing batting array of talent, and a lot of bowling around that. And we had a wicketkeeper who used to go out and slog occasionally and get a few runs, so that was handy. But so we were a talented bunch of cricketers, but I think the leadership around the group was probably the key ingredient that kept inspiring us to try and improve and get better. John Buchanan as coach, Steve Waugh as captain, then Ricky Ponting as captain. Mark Taylor prior to that was an outstanding leader. But I think one thing for sure that it always came back to and comes back to is attitude. Attitude about, first of all, why are you doing what you're doing? I had a great honour of being chair of the National Australia Day Council, and every year we would select, as part of the role, we would select the Australian of the Year recipients. And it used to be amazing standing in front of 32 finalists across 4 categories, senior, young Australian, local hero, and these extraordinary people who have achieved extraordinary things, and stand there and look at them, and not one of them started their journey in pursuit of the acknowledgement that had just been bestowed upon them. They were there because they loved it. They were there because there was something of interest where they just got into it and just wanted to go wholeheartedly and pursue that. And it's always amazed me about that sort of success, and seeing people achieve that at the start of the journey, working out, having the right attitude as to why you're doing something. Is it for an end acknowledgement? Because if it is, probably every chance you won't get there. But if it's because it's something you're passionate about and interested in, and you've got the right attitude to it, I think you're certainly on the road to a positive outcome. But I mentioned Steve Waugh and attitude. We used to go, like I said, we were a successful cricketing team for a sustained period of time. Australian cricket teams were going to India for 31 years without success. We'd go over there, we could win everywhere around the world. We'd go to India, we were hopeless. And I reckon a lot of it was about our attitude. We'd get over there, we were champion whingers, really good whingers, cricketers. Like, we'd go over there, blokes on the plane on the way over there, they'd be whinging before they even got there. Oh, it's going to be too hot. Bloody curries, I'm not eating the curries, I hate that, they upset my tummy. Umpires are going to cheat, every time we lost, it wasn't our fault. We could blame a loss on anyone or anything. The hotel, rubbish hotels, not like at home. Like professional whingers we were. And in 2001, and I'd been on a couple of tours prior to this one, but in 2001, Steve Waugh stood in the team meeting at, like, first, you land, you have a sort of an afternoon off. Next morning you get up after a bit of sleep from the flight and stuff, and then first team meeting, right, here's how we're going to set about going about this tour. And on a whiteboard, he wrote up a quote: "Attitudes are contagious, is yours worth catching?" And some of you may have read that. It's not his quote, he can't claim it. You Google it, it'll be there. I think it's anonymous, one of those anonymous ones. I don't know why they made it anonymous. If I'd made that up, I would claim it. Because it is, you think about that quote, attitudes are contagious, is yours worth catching. The moment you wake up every day, you can ask yourself that. And go, all right, well, because how you think, your attitude, is how you feel, and then it's how you act. So whatever it is, the moment you wake up in the morning, what's my attitude going to be like? Steve said, he titled it, "This is the no whinge tour." We're not whinging, because he saw and identified that was our biggest hurdle. Not the off-spinners that were getting sent down, or the reverse swing, or the batsmanship of Tendulkar. It was our attitude that was the biggest hurdle. So it was a no whinge tour. Once every Sunday, we're allowed to meet in the bar for an hour and whinge. And geez, it was entertaining, that was. The boys would be, oh, I remember that, oh, what about that? But get it all off your chest. And it was light-hearted, bit of good camaraderie, a couple of kingfishers, and it was good. But a great attitude. I never forgot that. We didn't win that series. We lost 2-1 in what I think is probably the best Test cricket series, certainly that I played in. I think it's one of the greatest, and I don't assume everyone's a cricketing tragic here and knows the fine detail, but what we did do in that series is we led the series for quite a while, and where previously we would have just been blown away by the local team and the conditions and all the challenges, we hung in there and we fought and we fought and we fought, and we lost on the last day of the last test. But what that did do is plant these seeds in our mind as a group about the attitude and about embracing change and challenges. And we then went to Sri Lanka a year later and had success there, and then we eventually went back to India in 2004 and finally got the holy grail for Australian cricket, a Test series win in India. And it was all based, I think, around the foundation of that attitude and that legacy that Steve Waugh had left behind for us as a group of cricketers. So I think that's something you can just think about in whatever it is that you do and the challenges that you face. The other, I think, standout leadership challenge or technique that was thrown from our leaders was John Buchanan, our coach. He simply said, another quote or a line, but he said, if you're number one, which we often were, we had to think and train and prepare as if we're number two. So to try and maintain that gap, we've got to take our mindset to imagining, there's someone else out ahead of us, and we've got to keep innovating and climbing and trying to find a way to get up there. So that simple mindset. He challenged us in training. But he made the goals and the challenges realistic. But again, don't assume everyone knows cricket inside out, but during John's time as coach, 2020 cricket appeared on the landscape. Up to that had been Test cricket and 50-over cricket. 2020 cricket turned up, and we played a game against South Africa. I think it was 2006, up at the Gabba. And 20 overs, everyone was thinking we should be able to score. Let's, 7, 8 and over. It might be 150, 160 runs off 20 overs. Somewhere that'll be a pretty good score. And that, that those scoring rates had never been sustainable in 50-over cricket. So we played a game at the Gabba and we got about 215, I think, against South Africa off 20 overs, and that was groundbreaking territory. And we thought we were pretty good. And then we went into a one-day tournament, and before the start of the 50-over tournament, John said, all right, boys, there's no reason why you can't be scoring 400 to 450 off 50 overs. And we're like that, we're laughing, going, mate, you are nuts. Because 20 overs, you can go as hard as you want, doesn't matter if you get out, there's not as many overs. All these theories, good negativity, good whinging again from the boys. You're crazy, boss, we're never getting that. But he used to just keep challenging us at training, work on shots, work on innovative this, that, and tempos, and utilising scoring off more balls, not just hitting a 4 or a 6, but score. So all these little things in our mind, always challenging us. And I'll never forget being in South Africa about 8 months later and looking across at John in the viewing area, and the look on his face and the pride he had as we brought up our 400 in the 47th over, batting first against South Africa, brought up the first team ever to score 400 in a one-day international. And it was amazing. We went on, batted for the rest of the overs. We got 434. And so that was, again, pioneering, groundbreaking territory. And he almost had a tear through pride. And then I remember by the end of the game, he had a tear of sorrow because South Africa got 438. So who would have thought? Groundbreaking stuff, but great challenge from a leader of our group that knew that we were a good cricket team, no doubt about it, and we'd achieved a lot. But he found a way to keep inspiring us to, train and think as if you're number two, to make sure that you never get complacent with where you're at and what you're trying to do. But look, I've probably gone on long enough, and I'm mindful of time. I thought we might just open it up for any questions. And you've got some questions, have you? Are they the same ones you asked me at the Illawarra Hotel that night? I can't guarantee the answers, but...
I'll go easier this time, right, Adam? So just to point out, these are all questions that were emailed in from students here today over the last week that they obviously wanted the opportunity of asking you. So we'll start with a lot of people here today, in fact pretty much everyone is doing sort of 3, 4, 5-year degrees, if not more. And so a question that I thought would be pretty relevant is, how did you stay focused for a long innings?
Yeah, that was my challenge. Not many of my innings went that long, but a long innings and being focused. Well, my first reaction to that is it's something that I think straight away, relating to my cricketing innings, is to my second Test match, where we played Pakistan down in Hobart, and we were down and out. We were in what was deemed as the unwinnable position, and I went in and joined Justin Langer we were chasing 360 odd in the last innings of a Test, which I think was the second highest ever run chase in Test history over 100 years. But so the odds were against us. We were 5 for 120, so still a good couple of hundred runs away, and we ended up getting there. And I think a lot of people say, "Oh, how, why?" But I think it was just simply breaking it down. Just breaking it down. If we knew we had to bat for at least another probably 80 overs, which is as good as a day's cricket. So that's a pretty long innings. So, but to think of it like that, it just seemed too far away. So we literally, I remember in this partnership with Justin, he was on. His job was to monitor the runs and just work in 10-run increments. So we wouldn't talk about the total until we got to 130 and then 140, and he'd say, well, that's another 10 down, so just tick that off. And I was focused on the clock, so 10 minutes. I'd say, come on, we've got 3 more minutes to survive. Let's just get to that turn of that 10-minute segment. And we literally, 10-run segments and 10-minute segments. So that worked for us on that day. I guess the key point is just trying to break it down, set those realistic goals, and I think also why our team was successful is we celebrated achieving goals. So if you've set many goals, whether it's in a course or whatever it is that is going to be a long journey, make sure when you achieve something, celebrate it, because there's often a lot of difficult times and challenging times where it's not appropriate and you're not feeling like celebrating. But I think that kept us hungry to make sure that you're then incentivised to pat yourself on the back, and however you celebrate, it's up to you.
A couple of kingfishers.
Yeah, a couple of kingfishers works in India, but I remember we played Zimbabwe in a Test match in Perth. It was a game when Matthew Hayden scored 380, which I got 100 that game too, but no one seems to talk about that. No, it was great. I had a new bat sponsor. I had a sticker on the back of my bat. I got this great new sponsorship. I thought, you beauty, I'll go out there. I scored 100. Thought, unreal, what exposure for them. First time I'm going to be front page of the paper, back page, and Matty got 380, So no one even saw or talked about my new bat sponsor. But we played Zimbabwe, we smashed them, went in the change rooms after a while, and we prided ourselves on being good celebrators and good. We stay together in the change room. We might have had a couple of drinks, and then everyone sort of went back to the hotel, and then we flew out to Sydney the next day, and before the team meeting, in preparation for the next Test, John Buchanan walked in and said, "You blokes have lost it." And we go, "Hang on, we've had a world record score. We've won in 3 days. Everything went to plan." He said, "No, you've lost it." He said, "You've lost your mojo." I said, "What do you mean?" For celebrating. And he's a coach saying, "You blokes should have celebrated much harder than that." No, mate, you're crazy. But he said, don't take it for granted ever. Don't get complacent. So, you know, if you achieve something, if you set a goal, make sure you enjoy the fact that you've got there, and then dust yourself off or whatever and prepared to achieve the next one. So if that's the first lot of exams, the second lot of it, whatever it may be, first year, second year, just make sure you acknowledge it.
Yeah, cool. Pretty short on time, so I'll just go one more. Throughout your career, it seems that you had a preference of being more of a vice captain than a captain.
Because,
yeah,
mate, all input, no responsibility. Just given, yeah, mate, yeah, punter, come on. Oh, sorry. Walk over there and just pretend you didn't have any input. Yeah, no.
You take the credit when you win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's right. That's the only reason I spoke about 2004 in India, is because Ricky was injured and I was captain. So that's the only reason we really won. It wasn't attitude, but no, I think personality type. I never coveted that captaincy position. I don't, again, getting a bit cricket specific, I think wicket-keeper batsmen can be very successful captains. I mean, MS Dhoni from India is he's a great leader. I think everything that encompasses as a captain of a cricket-crazy nation, I think he's handled himself extremely well. I wonder whether I would have been able to juggle all the responsibilities and just my personality type of whether I could have handled some of the plays and the personalities in our team and got the best out of them and still been able to focus on my job. Whereas, I'm a worrier. Like if I say something that I think has offended someone, I'll be going, oh no, he hates me now. Like, telling Shane Warne he's not bowling for an over. Good luck. Whereas Ricky had tell him he's not bowling, Warney had strongly hate's a big word, strongly dislike him for an over, but by the end of the next over, Ricky would have cracked a funny and would have won him back, whereas I would have just been a nervous wreck. And oh no, he's not going to talk to me forever. And so your personality type, suits certain leadership styles and positions. So I was more than happy to chip in when I was asked, but and try and give input. But the right leaders were leading our teams.
Yeah, great. I'll just do one more. Many remember you as a player who famously walked when the umpire didn't give you out in an 0-3 semi-final against Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
My question is, what did the coach and the team say when you got in the dressing room?
It is a very, very often asked question as well. What did your teammates say when you walked the World Cup semi? And it's not what they did say, it's what they didn't say. So you get out, a lot of us played team sport and some have played cricket. Once someone gets out, they come in and sit down in the change rooms and you give them a little bit of a quiet period, let them just get over themselves a little bit and then slowly the conversation starts up again. But I've come in and sat down and I'm sitting in there and I've got everything going through my mind, but then after a while I thought, gee, it's still quiet in here. Like, no one said a word. And then I started to doubt, thinking, have I done the wrong thing here? Oh no, we're right. Ricky's gone in, the world's best batsman at the time. He'll get us home. And then next minute he's out and he's sitting next to me. And he's the first one to speak. And he goes, mate, didn't you see the umpire give you not out? And I went, yeah. Wrong answer. About 15 minutes later, we're all... No one's... Obviously didn't sit too comfortably with the boys. They were a bit concerned about me growing a conscience in a World Cup semi-final. But it created a lot of debate. It still creates a lot of debate, that topic. There's a lot of people that walk, a lot of people that don't. It's one of those funny areas of cricket that it's acceptable to some extent. I guess at the end of the day, the rules say you just got to accept what the umpire decision bestows upon you, and that's all Ricky ever says. He didn't put any pressure on me not to do it. It's just up to the individual, but I think it's just one of those unique things in the game. It just so happened that that one incident was in a World Cup semi-final where the whole cricketing world was focused, and I didn't wake up that morning going, oh, here's an opportunity. It's just, I'd sort of always walked, but it just happened to be magnified under that intense scrutiny.
But did that sort of develop a split down the middle of the team where some people identified themselves as people who would walk if they thought they were out and some people wouldn't, and did it cause any tension in the team, especially being a vice captain?
Yeah, no, it didn't. It's a really good question, I reckon, and it was something that I was very aware of or mindful of all of a sudden, just because of, as I say, the exposure that got. I was very mindful of thinking, oh, hang on. As I told you, I'm a thinker, feeler. I'm sitting there wondering, are the boys thinking that I'm trying to claim that I'm sort of holier than thou and I'm perfect and they're not? Because it can be portrayed that way a little bit, but I've never felt that. I felt like, I think what sparked it in me was, like I'd always been a walker, but I'm sure what told me to walk off that day, because I did look up and see the umpire go, not out. And it was a good second or so before then, I've just found myself walking off, because I'd clearly hit it and I knew and everyone around me knew, but I felt players through that period of time, we needed to take a bit more responsibility and accountability for what we were doing with the game and our time in the game. Because it was just as technology was coming in about whether to judge whether a catch has been taken and I thought as players we worked out quickly how to cheat the system a bit, and it just didn't sit easy with me because, again, we're good whingers. We'd blame a bad umpiring decision for the loss, but rarely did we go to the umpires when they'd put a dodgy decision our way and go, oh, high five, great work, we won because of you. Like, we were bad receivers and pretty good. We were great at receiving the benefit, but not good at being the other way. So that was snowing around in my mind, but it didn't mean that I thought that anyone that if they did hit it and didn't walk, I didn't feel that they're cheats. They're quite within their rights just to wait for the umpire's decision. The close catches, there was just a few ones where guys dived and they knew they'd sort of not caught it, or batsmen knew they'd been caught but wouldn't walk, and that was taking it a bit far. The old little tickle through to the keeper, that's been around for cricket forever and it always will be.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, mate, I'm
No,
gas bagging.
That's fine. Alex is looking over at me with, she doesn't look too thrilled that I've gone to 10 past 1. We're supposed to wrap this up at 1.
I need to be quiet, don't I? I'm just going on too much.
So I'm just going to invite Mr. Paul Wellings, Professor Paul Wellings, to come up and make a brief vote of thanks.
Adam, thank you very much for spending your time and putting so much thought into engaging with our students here. It's terrific to see you on campus. I wonder, colleagues, if you could join me in the traditional manner and thanking Adam for...
Thanks, mate. Well done, mate.